Well, in this really short episode, I want to just share another change in my call and ministry. And I know it seems like maybe this is becoming a habit, although I've been at Meadowview for 6.5 years. So, but a couple months ago, I announced that I will be taking the ministry to state North Carolina position. Well, now that's changing. In April, I learned through ministry to state in our internal conference calls that the Florida position is opening up, and the Lord has worked in my and Susan's hearts, minds, through prayer and discussion that that's the position we should take. So I want to explain this for a second, but also then to announce, to people as they see me at GA, that I will be in Florida probably around the new year. And so the reason for this is how this came about. When my good friend Darren Stone left ministry to state a year and a half ago, or, thereabouts, I was lamenting how we wouldn't have that influence here in North Carolina in our state capital to minister to, witness to, disciple, encourage, pray with, and evangelize our elected officials and government workers. Meadowview has been a supporter of him since the beginning. He's become a close friend. And through that time, the Lord really just used that to impress upon me to consider joining ministry to state. I had my first conversation with Chuck Garriott, the director of ministry to state, at General Assembly last year. So this is a 1 year, anniversary of some of the beginnings of those conversations. Well, obviously, it all came through. And in January of this year, MNA issued me a call because ministry to state is under Mission to North America. And that's how we've proceeded. But then a number of things happened this year to me. I've had a surgery, double hernia surgery. I was sick for a month, 3 weeks and 2 weeks, two different sicknesses. But more significantly, my father's older brother passed away. Then a few weeks later, my grandfather passed away. And then a few weeks later, my grandmother passed away. And through this very tumultuous, busy time, January through March, I was traveling back and forth to Florida quite a bit to help with funerals and to be with my parents and for various reasons. My grandparents both lived in Florida, and now with them gone, and they were a part of my parents' daily life, and with them gone, that's one less family down there. But then I learned that my sister just moved to Greenville, South Carolina. I learned that in March, and it just happened now recently in May. And an aunt and uncle that's down there is leaving Florida. So this, by a roundabout way, I'm basically saying my parents are basically down there alone. They do have some extended family down there that they're close with, but for the most part, nobody's really looking after them. So I find all this out, and then in April, but I find all this out basically in March, it all comes about, and I'm lamenting that. And then in April, I find out there's an opening that Jonathan Craig is going into the Navy. So if you're familiar with him and his ministry as the Florida State Capitol Minister, he is going active duty as a chaplain with the Navy. And so began to start praying and thinking about that and discussing it with my wife, Susan. And lo and behold, that's what the Lord is doing. Obviously had conversations with Ministry to State, with Mission to North America, and that came through at the end of May, and Susan and I decided to do that. And so we are going to Florida, not North Carolina. Was committed to North Carolina, love the state of North Carolina. Actually, it's very bittersweet in the last few weeks, the idea of leaving our home and our kids' school and the people we love here. And it's a great state. But we're also seeing what the Lord is doing, especially how he worked out this last year. Like a year ago, I was in a very different mindset and never would have thought of moving back to Florida. And then when the need started presenting itself, the Lord provided a solution, and he already paved the way because I was already within Ministry to State's ranks. And so it's really amazing how he works and moves people, and we're just trusting him in that. So please keep us in prayer. Continue to keep Meadowview in prayer. If you're interested in the senior pastor position at Meadowview, come speak to me. But it's posted on our website, our Facebook page, and on the PCA job posting. So that's the easiest place to get the church profile document and the PCA's document on that. There's 2 docs. And then also keep in prayer Ministry to State North Carolina. And that's something else I want to share with you is well, first of all, to go back a second, if you're in Florida, a ruling elder, a pastor, a congregant, if you go to a church in Florida, I would love to talk to you. Obviously, ministry to state is donor supported. So I have to raise my support, and, I'm not able to get down there until the support is committed and there's already money in the bank to, fund the ministry when I begin, as the committed support continues to come in. So right now the plan is probably January. My family is going to move in advance so the kids can start the new year there, and we're just trusting the Lord for that. So if you're in Florida, let me know. Let's talk. Very much. And part of MNA's church vitality push is for all their ministries to be doing church engagement. And I really am a local church guy first. And so I want to be able to connect with churches, see how I can support churches, and also how I can help equip churches to think intelligently and pray intelligently for our government. 1 Timothy 2 tells us to do this. And I love the reasons. The first reason is that we may live peaceful and quiet lives, godly and dignified in every way. What an amazing thing. The first thing is it's actually in our best interest. But secondly, and I would say more importantly, of course, the Lord wishes everyone to be saved and come to the saving knowledge of truth of Jesus Christ. And so read 1 Timothy, the first few verses, if you want to check that out. So if you're in Florida, please come talk to me. I'll be in the ministry to state booth, but I'm sure you'll see me around. I love talking to people. But also if you're in North Carolina, and this is what I would say. So the North Carolina churches and donors that I have made relationships with and are committing and have committed to the ministry, they've all, I was so grieved to have to tell them that here I am fundraising January to March, fully committed and engaged to do this ministry in North Carolina. And then things change. And everyone had such a kingdom-minded focus. Every missions committee that I went back to, every pastor or person, and so, and even the presbyteries that were going to let me come speak, like everybody has just been really encouraged and encouraging to me. And I will say there's a hunger still here in North Carolina. So a lot of the donors that I secured, their donations are not going to transition to me in Florida because they're, with their missions committee, the understanding was this would be ministry on for the benefit of their state and their community. So if you are interested in ministry to state, one big thing I have always wanted to do as I was loving this ministry and wanting to promote it is I want to elevate the awareness of ministry to state. I would love for us to have state capital ministers in all the states. Of course, we have federal government ministers and a team that works in the federal government. Ministry to state they have a property now there that they're renting, walking distance from the Capitol in DC. And they also do international ministry through ministry to diplomats. And I think they're looking at doing international ministry abroad. So there's so much you can do. But for the state capitals, I think we have under 10. And I would love to see other PCA pastors become state capital ministers. And I would love to have that conversation with you. I'm brand new at it, so I'm probably the least person that should have that conversation. But I can also tell you, because I've just done the investigation and I'm onboarding, what that's like. You do have to raise your support, but you trust the Lord for that. And I'm finding congregants especially are hungry for it. And many, many churches are. And I've laid a lot of groundwork. And Darren Stone has laid a lot of groundwork. And the neat thing is, Darren, the former state capital minister in North Carolina, who did this, I think, for 6, maybe even 7 years, is just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina state capital, meaning any minister that wants to become the North Carolina ministry to state person would have access to Darren Stone, all of his contacts. He could tour you around, and his donor list, especially churches and presbyteries, are already aware. And then I've been able to add to that. And so there's already money that transitioned from Darren Stone to me. And now I have money that I've raised that is sitting in account for a North Carolina state minister. Now, I'm not going to say, it's an exorbitant amount, but it's a starting point. The more important thing, I think, is the number of relationships between Darren and I that we've begun with churches and presbyteries I would love to make those introductions because they would be soft introductions for a next North Carolina State Capitol minister. And then lastly, if you're in another state and you just think, man, that ministry is something I would like to consider, come talk to me. I've had a number of ruling elders want to talk to me about it. And apparently ruling elders can do it. They don't call them state capitol ministers. I think they call them state capitol ministry associates or something. And maybe that's clunky and maybe that's negotiable, but ruling elders have a pathway into this also. And so again, I'd love to talk to you. If you're a Florida church, see how we can partner. If you're interested in doing this in North Carolina, I would love to transition this. I had a guy, I had the hook set, and in the last minute, it wasn't what the Lord was doing. So maybe you're the next man for North Carolina, but any state. At any rate, I hope to see you and meet you at General Assembly. Thanks for listening. And let's be in prayer for General Assembly, for our denomination, for our nation, for our government workers, and that the gospel would spread and that will impact our land for the kingdom. This is Pastor George signing off. Look forward to seeing you at General Assembly.
If you want to know the worth of a seminary, go take a look at their graduates. Our graduates are all over the world. They're planting churches, they're revitalizing churches, they're translating the Bible, they're starting discipleship movements. It's heart-shaking, life-changing, and just mind-expanding of what God is doing.
You know, sometimes I really do have to pinch myself that what I get to do with the ministries at BTS, the engaging with the students and the impact that God uses us to have on the lives of our students, it's a pleasure, it's an honor, and it's a joy.
Jesus is still building his church. So we need to equip the pastor teachers who equip the saints. We need to equip the elders who shepherd the church. And I am grateful that Birmingham Theological Seminary is available to be a part of the expansion of the kingdom of God in these very crucial days.
The church is plan A, and there is no plan B. So that means that the training of pastoral leaders for the next generation is one of the most important tasks that we could ever undertake.
BTS was started in 1972 for a very specific purpose. Dr. Frank Barker and Dr. Bill Hay had the experience of trying to work with pastors who just simply did not have access to traditional seminary models and means of education. In 1999, we were able to add Dr. Harry Reeder to that list of those who were involved teaching and serving at BTS. That vision, though, that launched this seminary has remained true even now, more than 50 years later, that we bring faithful and accessible theological education to learners everywhere to build leaders to serve the local church. We believe that the Reader Center is the next step in building generational content that will benefit pastors and their studies and the church around America and around the world.
Harry Reeder doesn't need a memorial. What Harry Reeder needs for us in this day and time is simply for us to walk out what he showed us were the essential principles of pastoral leadership in the pulpit with expository biblical preaching, to bring new and fresh vitality, to equip pastors to shepherd the flock, just as he demonstrated through all of the years, replicating leadership. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, that pastors need to have a deep spiritual vitality in their own hearts and in their families. All of these things mean that the Reader Center will take that 50-year legacy of BTS and accelerate it, accentuate it, deepen it, and broaden it.
We are hoping and praying that the Lord will allow us to endow the Reader Center at $5 to $6 million. The kingdom benefits of that investment will be extraordinary. That $5 to $6 million will help produce over 40 books from Harry Reeder's legacy content. We have the Lampstand Conference and the new Reader Conference on Pastoral Leadership. It will allow us to offer 10 full scholarships on an annual basis. This endowment is nothing short of a game changer for Birmingham Theological Seminary.
Why would you need an endowment? Well, first, for a practical reason, it's because it keeps the funds secure. There is a singular purpose for what those funds are for. And so there isn't mission drift, there isn't project drift. We want to equip the future pastors, and by having an endowment, it allows us to do that without then having to make it financially not feasible for them to be here.
There's an incredible return on investment. When you make a gift to Birmingham Theological Seminary and the Reader Center, you know that a substantial portion of that money given is going directly to the work of ministry. It is the most effective, efficient, and I believe God-honoring way that we can give our discretionary dollars to advance the kingdom work.
It's not just impacting the pastors who want to be pastors in America. Praise the Lord, that will happen. But it's impacting the pastors who are in parts of the world where there's no opportunity for training. There's no opportunity to learn how do you pastor your flock. And so the impact that the Reader Center will have through BTS is all around the world.
I wish everybody got to experience what I do every day, seeing the seminary up close and personal. And partnering with us through financial giving is a real tangible way you can be a part of something special that God is doing for His church at this time.
If the Reader Center is going to really have the impact that we want it to have, if BTS is going to have the impact that we want it to have, we're going to need to see the whole church rally so that our stewardship is laying the foundations for a day that we may never see.
Anyone that's daring to mount these pulpits with all the isms that are coming into the church, you better have some backbone in your spine. And I'm not talking about the physical backbone, I'm talking about what Pastor Reader had. Because that tidal wave is here, so you might as well just go ahead and buckle up, put your seatbelt on, and get ready to stand on the Word of God, because it's here. And I think Pastor Reader is a guy that we should be studying, learning from, because he walked that out, he lived it out. I saw it with my own eyes, and I think for young guys who want to know how to do that well, that's a game changer.
Satan knows that the end is coming, and he is attacking those pastors and leaders with everything that he has. There are an alarming number of men that are leaving the ministry because of those attacks. One of the amazing things that we find is that the model of education at BTS, where students can stay in their local ministry, being mentored by pastors while also receiving academic instruction, means that we have seen an amazing work of God's preservation on the students and the graduates of BTS.
What an incredible opportunity for us to invest in the days that are yet to come, for the leaders who will guide the church through the crisis and on to the other side to reformation and revival.
My hope and prayer for the Reader Center for Pastoral Studies is that God would truly, in my lifetime, through the Reader Center, raise up a generation of pastors that will stand for biblical truth. And hopefully, in my lifetime, maybe we can see even a revival where churches are being planted, people are coming to know Jesus, and they live for Him, they have a biblical worldview, they live on mission, on message, and in ministry.
Our prayer is that your generosity will help us create another generation and generations to come of pastors that stay on mission with the church, that their message stays singular, the good news of Jesus Christ, but that their ministry is equipped and discipled to be broad and varied in their families and their communities around the world. Would you join us in supporting the Reader Center at BTS for the future of the kingdom?
God, keep us on mission, on message, and in ministry.